Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Edmonton Oilers, a side that's been one of the hottest teams in the league as of late, just kind of getting into that. But before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. Being said, let's get on into it. So the Oilers have made the playoffs 4 years in a row and know a thing or two about getting hot, and this is good considering this year, like last year, they get off to a slow start. They were 11-9-2 to kick off the year and saw 4 other Pacific Division teams alone above them in the standings. Vegas, LA, Calgary, Vancouver were those 4 teams, and instead of being a top 3 side like we've come to expect from them, it looked like this team might actually have to go out there and try to make the playoffs as a wild card side. However, they've had a fantastic run over the past 24 games and have really been able to get out of the wildcard hunt and are now in the spot to have a division title race, which is really fantastic news for a team, of course, that has done so well in recent years. And when I talk about this team's hot streak and say that they have been one of the better sides in the league, no, they have actually been the best team. They have the best points percentage over the last 24 games, as they have a record of 18-5-1. They've only had back-to-back losses on one occasion in that time and have just been doing so much better than some other sides. Again, in 24 games, if you're picking up 18 wins, you're obviously doing something right. The only thing that kind of stinks here out of all this is the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights, if you are an Edmonton fan, have also been, I believe, a top 4 team in terms of points percentage during this time. So they only made 6 points difference in that time, despite being the best in the league, because Vegas is also a really good team. Now, the good news is, though, that for the Oilers, they are above 3 other teams in the division already: Vancouver, Calgary, and of course LA. Vancouver kind of in a free fall, but we'll ignore that for now. And for the Oilers, it is just kind of nice to go from having to worry about what your fate would be with other teams to actually kind of being in the driver's seat. So what exactly has gone right compared to their first 22 games to now their past 24? I would say that the penalty kill getting better and the goalies being better, performing well, has been a big boost to this team. There's probably a lot of other reasons as well, but we talked about this earlier in the year. I did a video talking about how the Oilers' PK percentage was on pace to be the worst all time. They were only successfully killing off penalties at like 65% of the time. It was a huge issue for them. On top of that as well too, they weren't spending a lot of time on the PK, which is generally a good thing, but they were still allowing a ton of goals when they were supposed to be, of course, successfully killing off these penalties. So it was weird where their goals against per 60 was so much higher compared to a lot of these other teams because they were playing a fraction of the minutes but still putting their team in a bad spot. However, things have really leveled out here. They have the lowest expected goals allowed over the past 24 games with 9. They've only allowed 10 in that time. That is not the best in the league. However, that is significantly better than a period where they allowed 16 goals in 16 games. So that is difference, a world of difference right there, and helps your team out when you are trying to not only get into the playoffs, but try to elevate yourself into a higher seed. Now, as for goaltending, we probably will circle to Stuart Skinner, a guy that has been expected to be kind of the go-to for a little bit. Stuart did not have a good start to the year. In his first 14 games, he allowed 3 goals or more in 11 of those. However, over his past 16 games, things have looked pretty good for him. He has allowed only 3 goals or more in 6 of those, so 10 games where he's been able to kind of keep things pretty neat and tidy. Then a couple of those games where he did allow just 3 goals, so it's not the end-all be-all. But for Skinner, things are good in that regard with a shutout, a .919 save percentage, and then of course a 11-4-1 record in that time. It really just matters about the wins. We know that sometimes Stuart will have numbers that aren't always going to be top tier, but they just kind of seem to go side and side with the team going on a run. Not saying it's directly related to him, because again, I think a lot of this is attributed to the team. The guys in front of him have allowed 30 shots or less in 14 out of the 16 games that he's played in. So credit out there goes to them, but also you do need a goalie to perform even if you're kind of doing your part. So better PK, and then a goalie that has been around for a couple years now that is starting to find his groove a little bit over the course of the season can greatly be attributed to this team actually going out there and moving up in the standings. But it's not just that either. The 5-on-5 numbers look good, especially offensively. Basically the best or one of the best 5-on-5 teams over the past 24 games. They actually have the highest goals for per 60, meaning nobody's scoring at a higher rate compared to them. They are just making it simple. A lot of shots, a lot of quality chances, and then a lot of high quality chances that turn into goals. That is great. And then on the power play, you have a team that has been top 10 for percentage over this period of time. But again, a top tier team over this past 24 games, especially making them so lethal. They may not be as lethal as the Detroit Red Wings have been in recent weeks, where they just have been on an absolute tear, but they've been scoring a lot of goals. In regards to this, they'll probably end up having 4 players that score 10 goals or more on the man advantage, which is good for the playoffs, kind of spread things out a little bit. And then circling back to 5-on-5, the defensive numbers have actually looked really good as well, as they're like a top 5 to 10 team in a lot of categories. And again, you just see so many things working out. It's not, rocket science. They are a team that has got 5-on-5 going for them offensively and defensively, a power play that's scoring, a PK that is greatly improved, and goalies that are performing better. So you can kind of understand that this team has been better in a lot of different ways over this time, not just one. And you can talk about some things that are really positive. They have one of the best pairings in the league in Ekholm and Bouchard. We've known that, but the numbers really are backing this up this year. Good numbers in shots, and then of course expected goals for, all those things that you really like to see. And this pair might not have some of those numbers that you would say wow in terms of the points. I think Ekholm is kind of having a quiet year in that regard, but still looking like one of the better pairings in the league. Also, the Kulak-Brinstrom pairing has been really good for them, as they've got 2 out of that 3 kind of worked out. And then of course the third pairing, which of course things always get changed around too, isn't that bad either. But this is just one of those deals where you've got a good group there in your blue line that are really doing well for you, as well as the fact that they have guys like Leon Draisaitl that are leading the league in goals. By the way, he has 25 even strength goals this year. That is insane. Leon is absolutely killing it right now. And then, of course, Connor McDavid, who just passed Jari Kurri for second all-time in Edmonton Oilers history for points. Now he's just got to pass the great one, as that will be the final milestone, which is insane, as McDavid is not even 30 yet. And those are just some of the things that are going well for them. Now, are there things that are kind of holding them back, or there could be bad news here? Yes, it looks like Connor McDavid could be facing a suspension here in the coming few days. We'll have to see how that plays out. And then, of course, as well, too, a guy like Zach Hyman, it looks like he may take a big step back in terms of goals this year. Although we'll see, because he really did get off to a pretty rough start to the season. Although at the end of the day, I think a lot of those minor things like the McDavid suspension and whatnot, you could probably look past if it even ends up happening, or if Hyman ends up having a little bit more of a quiet year, but turns it on to the playoffs, because that's what happens when you are a team that looks like you're safely going to make the playoffs. And this still could be a very, very fun year for them as they progress along, which is crazy because, again, they get blessed with these runs that are just almost unimaginable, and then they end up having playoff success too. But they might go out there and win their first division title since 1987, the longest drought in the NHL. That would be a really nice thing to check off the box for this team. Just kind of a minor thing, but something I could say that they were able to get done for the first time in nearly 40 years for the organization, while also possibly going out there and going on their third deep run in 4 years, and maybe, just maybe, winning the Stanley Cup and adding that to the legacy of a lot of these players. I know McDavid is, of course, the biggest name kind of attached to this, and a lot of this legacy regarding him and the all-time greats is probably going to be attached to this. And I don't know how that will all play out, but I can tell you for right now, this team, as usual, is exciting. Are they maybe a little bit more top-heavy than you'd like them to be? Possibly. This will be one of those deals where you'll see if they have an early exit, and if we are maybe just going to look past a lot of things that went well for them, or if at the end of the year we can say, wow, so many things went right for them during the course of the regular season, which set themselves up well for the postseason. And even if they don't win the cup, I still think deep runs are good things to acknowledge, especially if you are a team like Edmonton that could possibly go on to their third conference finals appearance in 4 years at the very least. Maybe even make it to the Stanley Cup final again. I don't know, the West could kind of get messy this year, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers? Do you think that they are the best team in the league? Obviously, they're not in the standings, but they're in a good spot right now to possibly go on a run, take control of their not only division, but conference, and maybe even the entire league for the standings and win the President's Trophy, as they're not too far back from the Capitals. But I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.